There's a BMW 335i sitting in a salvage yard with 94,000 miles on it. Engine completely seized. Rod bearings destroyed. Total loss. The owner maintained it religiously. Oil changes every 7,500 miles. Never missed a service. On paper, this car should still be running perfectly. But the maintenance records don't show what happened every single day. During his 15-minute commute. A driving habit so common, so seemingly innocent, that he had no idea he was destroying his engine. Right now, thousands of BMW owners are making the same mistakes. Different habits, same result. Premature engine wear that doesn't show up until it's too late. These aren't the obvious ones. We're talking about subtle habits that feel completely normal, but are silently cutting your engine's lifespan in half. Habit number 1. The cold start acceleration. Here's the scenario. Tuesday morning. The car's been sitting overnight in 45-degree weather. You start the engine, back out, and within 60 seconds you're merging onto the highway, foot in the throttle, asking for boost. Feels fine, right? Engine fires up immediately. No warning lights. Everything seems ready. But here's what's actually happening inside that engine. When oil sits overnight in cold temperatures, it thickens dramatically. When you start that cold engine, oil pressure builds quickly, but oil pressure and oil flow are not the same thing. You can have adequate pressure with insufficient flow to critical bearing surfaces. Rod bearings, main bearings, and cam bearings need a constant film of oil to prevent metal-to-metal contact. When that oil is cold and thick, it doesn't reach those surfaces fast enough to provide full protection. Now add load. You accelerate onto the highway. The turbocharger spools up. The engine is suddenly making close to full power while the oil is still 30 to 40 degrees below optimal operating temperature. The result? Microscopic metal-to-metal contact at the bearing surfaces. You'll never feel it. You'll never hear it. But it's happening every single time. Do this every day for 3 years, and you've accumulated wear equivalent to 150,000 hard miles, except your odometer only shows 60,000. This is exactly what killed that 335i in the salvage yard. The mechanic who tore it down said the bearing wear pattern was consistent with chronic cold acceleration stress. Years of cumulative damage that never showed a single symptom until catastrophic failure. The fix? 10 minutes minimum before any spirited driving. 15 minutes in. Temperatures below 50 degrees. Keep RPMs below 3000 and boost below 5. Sigh until oil temperature reaches 180 degrees Fahrenheit. This one habit change can add 100,000 miles to your engine's life. Habit number 2. Lugging the engine in high gear. This one feels efficient. You're in 6th gear at 1,500 revolutions per minute, cruising at 35 miles per hour. The engine pulls smoothly. Fuel economy looks great. No drama. But your engine is suffering in ways you cannot perceive. When an engine operates at very low RPM under moderate to heavy load, it experiences abnormal combustion events and excessive cylinder pressure. At low RPM, cylinder pressure is high but combustion speed is slow, creating pressure the engine wasn't designed to handle continuously. Modern turbocharged BMWs with direct injection are especially vulnerable. The turbo creates boost even at low RPM, compounding the problem. You're asking the engine to make significant power at an RPM range where the mechanical advantage is all wrong. The result? Increased stress on piston rings, excessive carbon deposits, accelerated wear on crankshaft and rod bearings, and in severe cases, damage to the piston crowns themselves. Your transmission has 6 or 8 gears for a reason. Each gear is optimized for a specific speed and load range. When you're in 6th gear at 1,500 revolutions per minute trying to accelerate, you're operating outside the optimized range. BMW engines want to rev. The sweet spot for cruising is 2,000 to 3,000 revolutions per minute. For acceleration, 2,500 to 5,000 revolutions per minute is where these engines make efficient, protected power. The fix, downshift. If you're below 2,000 revolutions per minute and need acceleration, drop a gear. Use sport mode or manual mode. Keep the engine in its power band. Let it rev to 3,500 or 4,000 revolutions per minute when accelerating. A BMW engine revving to 4,000 revolutions per minute at proper load experiences less stress than the same engine lugging at 1,500 revolutions per minute trying to accelerate in 6th gear. Habit number 3. Coasting to stops in neutral. This habit shows up most often in manual transmission BMWs, shifting to neutral and coasting the last 100 yards to a stoplight. The logic seems sound: save fuel, less wear on the clutch. Seems efficient. But it's creating problems in two critical systems. First, modern BMWs with direct injection have high-pressure fuel pumps that rely on engine vacuum and specific RPM ranges for proper lubrication. When you coast in neutral, the engine drops to idle, 600 to 800 RPM. At idle, fuel pump lubrication is marginal. Do this constantly and you're accelerating wear on the high-pressure fuel pump. Second, and more importantly, carbon buildup. When you decelerate in gear, engine braking, the engine spins at higher RPM while fuel delivery is cut completely. This is called deceleration fuel cutoff. During fuel cutoff, the engine spins at 2,000 to 4,000 revolutions per minute with no fuel being injected and maximum airflow through the intake valves. This high velocity air helps prevent carbon deposits from accumulating on intake valves. When you coast in neutral, the engine is at idle, fuel is being injected, and airflow is minimal. You're losing the natural carbon cleaning effect of deceleration. Over 50,000 miles, the difference is measurable. Engines that regularly use engine braking show significantly less carbon buildup than engines that coast in neutral frequently. The fix: leave it in gear until you're within 1 or 2 car lengths of your stopping point. Let the engine braking slow the vehicle. You're using zero fuel during engine braking, which is more efficient than idling in neutral. Habit number 4. Ignoring engine braking on downhills. Picture a mountain road. Long downhill grade. The driver stays in drive, uses the brakes to control speed, and rides them for miles down the mountain. When you stay in a higher gear on a downhill and rely entirely on brakes, brake temperatures skyrocket. But the bigger problem is what's not happening. The engine isn't being used to control speed. The engine is just idling along at 1,500 to 2,000 revolutions per minute, barely working. Meanwhile, the brakes are generating massive heat right next to critical components: wheel bearings, CV joints, suspension bushings. This radiant heat affects everything nearby. Wheel bearings running hot fail prematurely. Brake fluid absorbs moisture faster when repeatedly heated. Rotors warp. Pads glaze. BMW braking systems are designed to work in conjunction with engine braking. The engineers assume drivers would downshift on descents and use engine braking to control speed. Proper engine braking means selecting a lower gear that keeps the engine at 3,000 to 4,500 revolutions per minute while descending. The engine controls your speed, and the brakes are only used for final adjustments and stops. This is especially critical for turbocharged BMWs. When you're descending in gear, the turbo is being spun by exhaust flow while no boost is being created. This helps cool the turbo naturally and prevents heat soak. If you descend in neutral or too high a gear, then immediately park at the bottom. You're trapping heat in the turbo. That's how you cook oil inside the turbo bearings. The fix: on any descent longer than a quarter mile, drop 1 or 2 gears and let the engine control your speed. Your brakes will last twice as long. Your turbo will stay healthier, and you maintain better vehicle control. Habit number 5. Shutting down immediately after hard driving. This habit kills turbos, and creates oil coking in the system. The scenario: highway driving at 85 miles per hour for an hour. Lots of boost. Engine working hard. You exit, drive 2 minutes to your destination, and immediately shut down. Not enough cool down time. When a turbocharged engine is making boost, the turbocharger is spinning at 100,000 to 180,000 revolutions per minute. Oil flowing through the turbo absorbs massive heat, not just from the turbo itself, but from exhaust gases exceeding 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit. When you shut down the engine, oil flow stops immediately. But the turbo is still incredibly hot. That residual heat has nowhere to go except into the oil sitting in the turbo bearings. When oil is heated beyond its thermal limits without flow to carry that heat away, it cooks. It forms carbon deposits. These deposits accumulate in the turbo bearings and oil feed lines. Over time, these deposits restrict oil flow to the turbo. A turbo that should last 200,000 miles starts failing at 80,000. The failure is often catastrophic: seized bearings, oil consumption, smoke from the exhaust. A turbo specialist said this: 90% of the turbos I see with premature bearing failure show evidence of heat soak and oil coking. The owner drove hard, shut down immediately, and repeated this for years. The fix is simple. After sustained hard driving, highway speeds above 75, spirited driving, track use, give the engine a 2-minute cooldown period before shutdown. Drive gently for the last mile or two. Let the engine idle for 30 to 60 seconds before turning the key. This allows oil to continue flowing through the turbo while temperatures drop. 2 minutes of idle time or gentle driving after hard use can add 100,000 miles to your turbo's lifespan. Every one of these habits shares something in common. They feel normal. They don't trigger warning lights. They don't cause immediate problems. The engine runs smoothly, and there's no obvious indication anything is wrong. That's what makes them so destructive. By the time symptoms appear, rough, idle, oil consumption, loss of power, the damage is already done. You're looking at thousands in repairs or engine replacement. The BMW owners whose engines last 200,000, 300,000 miles aren't driving different cars. They're driving the same cars differently. They understand that turbos need cool-down time. That cold oil doesn't protect like warm oil. That engine braking serves a purpose. That the transmission has multiple gears for a reason. Stop accelerating hard on a cold engine. Stop lugging in high gear. Stop coasting in neutral. Stop ignoring engine braking. Stop shutting down immediately after hard driving. 5 simple changes. Hundreds of thousands of miles in additional engine life. The difference between a BMW that proves the reliability critics wrong and a BMW that becomes another salvage yard statistic. If this video helped you, hit that like button. Share it with other BMW owners who need to hear this message. And subscribe to the channel, because there's more real-world BMW ownership advice coming.